Hey, what's up everybody? This is Parlay Doc from oddsjam.com. Now, were you one of the lucky winners that DraftKings had to shell out over $1 million of winning tickets for Draymond Green unders on Sunday, January 9th? Now, for those of you who are not degenerates and don't know what I'm talking about, good for you. But for those of you who are true degens, you know exactly what I'm talking about. We are going to talk about the Draymond Green controversy in the sports betting world. So in a nutshell, Draymond Green on Sunday, January 9th for the Golden State Warriors was supposed to be active and playing that day for Klay Thompson's big return from his long hiatus from his injury and recovery. Now, about 9 minutes before tip-off, the Golden State Warriors media team kind of leaked a story or a tweet on social media saying that Draymond Green was experiencing some calf tightness during warm-ups and he was unlikely to play. But because he wanted to be on the court so bad for his buddy's return as kind of a symbolic gesture, he potentially planned on just playing for the tip-off and then exiting the game. Because he's like, I just want to be there for Klay's return. Now, with that breaking news, as more people started tweeting about it, Sportsbooks started removing Draymond Green props from their listings and their available props. But some sportsbooks were slower than others. One example was DraftKings Sportsbook. So some savvy, high-risk gamblers said, hey, let's see if this story is true and let's run with this theory. So what did they do? They went and they slammed under props for Draymond Green. So they slammed his under on points, under on rebounds, under on assists, and now some of them went crazy and they parlayed them all together. So they parlayed all of those unders as a single same game parlay, some of them paying out close to plus 2,000 odds. So what happened? So Draymond Green did start the game for Klay Thompson's return so he could be there for his buddy. After the jump ball, he went casually over to an opposing player, fouled them, and then left the game. He played for a grand total of 7 seconds and ended the game with 0 points, 0 rebounds, 0 assists. That's what his stat line was. So all of the underbettors were rejoicing. Okay, so technically speaking, if you follow the house rules of most sportsbooks, he stepped on the court. He played in the game, albeit for 7 seconds, but he technically played, so those bets should have action. Okay, obviously, these sports books, from what we're hearing in the news, held liabilities of over multiple millions of dollars across multiple sports books, and most of that damage happening in that 9-minute span before tip-off with these people betting those unders, okay? Now, some sports books, to just avoid controversy and bad PR, paid out those under bets immediately, okay? Now, DraftKings Sportsbook, apparently they were one of the sports books that were the slowest to remove those props, and they got hammered pretty hard, okay? So they had over $1 million of tickets that they would have to pay out because of this liability, all right? So they actually held off grading those under tickets for close to 36 hours. So going into Monday, going into Tuesday morning, the bettors who had taken those unders and under parlays are kind of sweating it out, getting upset, getting tense on whether they would get their big payouts. Now, during that time frame, DraftKings was trying to use something called the known event clause, okay? They were trying to use this common clause that sportsbooks utilize called the known event clause. So if an outcome was already determined, they could void a bet. Now, the most common example of when this is used is, let's say, for a player prop, like Steph Curry has to hit over 25 points. And for some reason, due to a slow computer or some kind of glitch, mid-game, he crosses 25 points. He goes over that. But that line is still available for you to bet. Some people will say, well, I'm going to go bet that now because it's already a winner. It's a glitch. It's an error. Now, most of the time, sportsbooks will see the timestamps and see you bet it after he had already gotten that prop, okay? So they'll void the bet, saying this was a known event. So they were debating, could they use the known event clause for this particular wager? Because they said, look, there was already news that he was going to do this, that he was going to be there on the court and then leave the court. My only argument to that, and I'm not an attorney, is that it wasn't 100%, okay? Because this was breaking news. People on social media were tweeting about it, but does that make it true? And does that make it a known event? Also, look, he stepped on the court. What if, after the jump ball, he was so hyped, so pumped, and he said, hey, my calf's feeling a little bit better. And he ended up playing, I don't know, 5 minutes, 8 minutes, 10 minutes instead of 7 seconds, right? You can't predict or control what he's going to do just because he says I'm going to do something once he's on the court. So in my eyes, in my opinion, he was on the court, he played. That's on the sports books for not removing those lines faster. So for those who were fast enough to get in on it, it technically didn't violate the house rules, in my opinion, because you don't know what he was going to do when he went on the court. Now, some of the payouts were ridiculous. Now, if you scroll on social media, on Twitter, on TikTok, you will see several players who gambled on those same game parlays and turned $1,000 into $19,000 profit. It is insane. I saw one guy, he won about 40-something thousand dollars in profit, and once DraftKings paid out after about 36 hours, they were rejoicing and showing their tickets. Now, one of the fallouts from this is there's a lot of word and news coming out that people who bet these Draymond Green unders on DraftKings are now becoming limited. So their accounts, not all of them, but I've heard a lot of people say their accounts have been flagged, and now they have these stricter limits on how much they can wager. So number one, are you one of those crazy, lucky Draymond Green unders winners? And number two, if you were, are you now limited on DraftKings? Let's hear your comments below. But that was the controversial news in sports gambling media over this weekend. Parlay Doc here at oddsjam.com. Let's keep crushing it.